Cops of Reddit, have you ever gone to pull someone over and they successfully escaped you? How did it happen? I was leaving work and was parked in the parking lot to the left of the building. The exit to the parking lot has a no left turn sign up that I ignore every single night. That night, there was another guy in front of me that decided to live dangerously and turn left too. Well, I get about halfway down the road and I then notice the cop riding my bumper. I think crap. Finally got caught. It's at this moment that crap got real. Without turning his lights on or even acknowledging me, the cop starts driving in the oncoming lane, not a busy road, and accelerating up to me. He then proceeds to slowly, but deliberately start drifting right at my car. This causes me to slow down and he edges up so that basically now he is at an angle in front of me. Basically, he got behind the car in front of me while still blocking me from doing anything. He then proceeds to turn the lights on and drive that exact way until both I and the car in front of me have to pull over. I was awe and utterly impressed. He pulled over both of us at the same time. Incredible technique. He comes to the window and says very sternly, license and registration. I crap you not. I just immediately blurt out, hey man, that was freaking awesome. I've never seen a cop able to pull over two people at once. His face changes to a huge grin and he turns into a teenager basically. Right. I told my partner, man. I freaking told him. I said I could pull it off and he called balls. In his face, dang. It felt good doing it too. I proceed to say things like heck yeah dude and yeah it was sick. He then says, listen man. Don't turn left out of there. You can go. We'll give the other bus a ticket. Haha. At that moment a firework or a gunshot, still don't know, goes off like 3 streets behind. I can see the look on his face and I know in his head he's going, I got 2 guys pulled over at the same time. Only 1 car. And I gotta check that noise out. Frick. So I say damn. Well you got your hands full. I can reverse it and check that noise out if you want. He looks at me like I'm straight out of I Am Sam and says, I thought I told you to get lost. Coolest cop ever. Every time I watch Superbad I think of him. Looks like you had a run-in with the Brolis. As a cop. Happens all the time. I'll turn around to snag someone I just passed speeding and depending on traffic they can be long gone by the time I turn around. Happens all the time. If they're far enough in front of me it's not even worth trying. On to the next. And as for all of you saying that you should downshift instead of braking, that's not true nor does it matter. If you see me, I already have your speed and have it locked into my radar. A majority of the time I have your speed and locked before I can even tell what kind of car it is. I would actually encourage you to brake instead of downshift because then maybe you'll get lucky and my radar is still hitting the car in front of you, and if you brake and get below my pullover speed then you're good. Braking as you say is giving you away, doesn't matter if you're below speed. Hit them brakes and slow down and hope he didn't clock you yet. That's my tip of the day. Tip from a real cop. Thank you sir. My agency has a very limited pursuit policy, traffic not being something we pursue. I was driving up a 6-lane divided road in an area known for street racing on the weekends. A motorcycle comes up next to me at a red light. We look at each other and nod. We take off a little bit quicker than standard, but not racing. The speed limit is 50, and he stays right out of my window as I get up to 62ish. No big deal. Then he starts to rev and push out just in front of me a few times, and as he does, I see his plate is bent upward, unreadable, which is a huge fine. So I drop back, start calling it out and throw the lights on. He hauls butt, which is while I'm calling it over the radio, so I go from the standard stop radio traffic to and he's running. Reckless driver northbound, unit disengaging. He almost got destroyed by a bus when he flew through a red light a few hundred yards up, and that's why we don't chase. It's not worth the possible result. According to Hunter S. Thompson, the real trick to is let them catch you. No cop was ever born who isn't a sucker for a finely executed high-speed controlled drift all the way around one of those cloverleaf freeway interchanges. Few people understand the psychology of dealing with a highway traffic cop. Your normal speeder will panic and immediately pull over to the side when he sees the big red light behind him. And then we will start apologizing, begging for mercy. This is wrong. It arouses contempt in the cop heart. The thing to do when you're running along about 100 or so and you suddenly find a red flashing CHP tracker on your trail, what you want to do then is accelerate. I got out of a speeding ticket once. Was in the far left lane on a 3-lane highway, going about 15 above the posted limit. Cop swings up behind me and flips on the lights. Now, I know that it is illegal to pull over on the left side of a divided highway, so I signal my lane change to the right, and I see the cop follow me into the middle lane. As I'm making my next lane change to the right, I notice that the cop is no longer right behind me, but is now dead stopped in the middle lane of the highway. He got hit by the car behind him. The guy that hit the cop just had an insanely bad day. My buddy got out of a DUI by showing the cop his brother's insulin kit. Told the cops his blood sugar was low. They drove him to a gas station and bought him a candy bar. He went on to become an actor and is now in the film industry. Was speeding on my way to work one day, saw the lights come on behind me and knew I was getting a ticket. Went over a hill and had about a 2-second window to quickly pull into the parking lot of a nearby business. Did that, saw the cop fly by. I figured if he came back to find me I'd just say hey I was pulling over here. And yes, I did wait a few minutes. Not one of my finer moments. He either A, genuinely didn't see me or B, wasn't going after me in the first place. Either way, I didn't get a ticket. Not a cop here, but was on a jury where this sorta happened. Guy gets flagged for going 45 in a 25 residential area. It was 2 AM. Cop chases guy around town. Guy gets on freeway and books it. Cop calls off chase. 1 minute later and the cop is recalled due to an overturned vehicle on the freeway. The guy was going so fast he flipped himself over on the highway without even hitting another car. So this is the odd case where he didn't get away because he was going so fast. So this is a long story from my dad, who was the escapee, not the cop. So my dad was riding his motorcycle with one of his buddies and they go over a hill, promptly seeing a cop in classic speed trap position. At this point his buddy realizes he doesn't have his license, but neither of them are speeding, so they should be okay. He tells my dad and my dad tells him to drive to the closest city and he will meet him there. When my dad reaches the cop he looks right at him and does a U-turn and speeds off. Sure enough, the cop takes off after him and after a short chase my dad stops. Now the cop asks for it. Insurance. Act. However, my dad has not done anything illegal up to this point. When all the paperwork is in order, the policeman is confused as to why a man would speed off after seeing a cop if they were perfectly legal, so he asks my dad. My dad replies, I forgot my gloves. At this point the realization dawns on the cop and he asks, your buddy didn't have his paperwork, did he? I don't know, officer. I can tell you, if you do get caught and are stoned or nervous about the H in your trunk and it is 2 state troopers, one on each side, is the worst. Is that how they trained them? Then answering why you seem nervous with I've never been pulled over by 2 state troopers. Yes, I am nervous does indeed diffuse the situation. Honesty, or at least partial honesty, is your best weapon against police. It surprises them when they are used to being lied to all day. When I was a deputy sheriff in northern Colorado, people would evade us by running through a school zone. Our department policy was to call off any chase that went dangerously through a school zone. Normally, we would jet the plate number and go pick them up at their house later in the day, unless the car was stolen. If the car was stolen and reported as such, we would try to circle the school zone and pick up on the other side. It was annoying. That policy has since been changed. Now most chases that enter the high-speed category are called off. We lost a deputy after a high-speed chase that probably didn't need to happen a few years ago. 9 times out of 10, the person running is doing so in his or her car, so they are easy to find later. I was smoking in my car with some friends on a long road. My friend in the passenger seat was pulling some waterfalls, and when he was passing the white smoke-filled bottle to my friend in the back, we passed by a cop car. It was going the opposite way as us, but I looked in my rear view and saw that he was turning around, so I pressed the gas and made a left into some neighborhood and drove into someone's driveway, then turned my lights and car off. That's some Ryan Gosling level crap. I-66 westbound near DC. Driving 85 in a 55/65 area. Way late getting to class. Early morning. Little to no traffic. I'm driving a silver 4-door sedan and I blow past a state trooper with a shocked but determined look on his face. I saw him make the motions of getting ready to chase me as I was speeding past. About a mile up the road, I pass another silver sedan, and then get over in the slow lane and obey the traffic laws. In my rear view, I can see the trooper approaching, and he pulls over the silver sedan that I passed. Huge relief, followed by shame, followed by an on-time arrival at class. I won. Also, I'm an butthole. Some guy here robbed a bank on a snowmobile during a daytime blizzard and escaped across a frozen river into the woods. I hear. A cop tried to pull me over once and I got away. He had just flipped his lights on and was way behind me. I came to an intersection and turned right in front of a long line of cars. By the time he was able to pull out, I had already turned down several streets and was gone. I lost a cop once and it was thrilling. My truck has a lot of modifications to it, and one day I was going to my house and speed limit was like 35 down this road. I was going closer to 50 and he was oncoming traffic. I saw him turn into a parking lot and I knew he was coming for me. Luckily he had a hard time getting back into traffic. I also knew I was about to go over a small hill, make a left and immediately go over another small hill, turn another quick right and there is our house. I quickly did that and he never saw me. I don't see it as running from the cops, since I would have stopped if he had his lights on, but rather he just missed the chance. My brother was driving through an Apache reservation in eastern Arizona quite late at night. He was helping my sister move from California to South Carolina, so he was driving her car filled with her stuff as well as some of his. Believe me when I say that you do not want to get pulled over on a Native American reservation. Normal laws do not apply. They can do anything they want to you and can really make life difficult. Well, sure enough, my bro gets pulled over, and the officer gives him some BS reason for stopping him. He knows he is in big trouble because among his belongings in the car are a few guns and samurai swords. He does not want to deal with getting our sister's car impounded and risk the confiscation of all his stuff, not to mention the hellstorm of Apache fury he'd have to deal with when they see all the weapons. So, he starts thinking of a plan. That's when the officer made a huge mistake. He told my bro that had he not caught him when he did, he would have gotten away because the reservation's border was just a few hundred yards away. The officer tells my bro to wait in the car, but that's not his style. As soon as the officer is away from the car, my brother floors it. The officer follows in hot pursuit, lights flashing, and sirens blazing. But down the road a little bit, he looks in the rear view mirror to see the cop simply turn off his lights and turn around. My sister speaks fluent Russian. I don't. I was driving. I got pulled over. The cop asks me something. I look confused and then look at my sister. My sister says something to me in Russian. I nod and say, "Duh." My sister goes to answer the cop. He has a frustrated look on his face and then says to my sister, "Just tell him to slow it down a bit." I was driving my buddy's Rintech E55 doing well over 150 plus when this other guy with his mom's turbo 911 catches up to us. Also noteworthy as we were just out of college and stupid as frick. We did a rolling drag race, 3 honks and hit it. No one on the road at 3 AM. Pass a cop and keep going as it is clear that we are going to jail. We knew we never going to get caught, as long as we got farther than what they would think to look and pull off and hide. About the time we were looking for an exit, we got a call from a guy who heard on a scanner that all these cops were looking for us, including a chopper. Fortunately we were heading out of town to another guy's farm, which equates to long highway run. Turns out that an average helicopter at the time tops out at 130-140. We actually lost the chopper. When I was 21 I was borrowing my dad's Explorer with transporter plates and was going 90 in a 55. I got pulled over at the exit next to my house and the officer says, "Did you even see me? What are you going so fast for?" I spur of the moment handed my license and expires PBA card and said, "Honestly officer, I live down the road 20 seconds and I really have to take a huge crap." He looked at me in disgust and said, "Slow down next time." My friend did this once in his WRX-ST. He made a 20-minute back road trip in like 7 minutes. He tried again in a different state and on main roads. He died. Just pull over. D.I. Cruising 120 HWY on a black GSX-R 600 in the middle of the night. Cop going the other direction hit his brake and jumps the median and turns on his lights. Down 2 gears and gas. equals 155 miles per hour and 2 miles down the HWY. Later exited and parked in the shadows. All black, no lights equals Batman-like stealth. Sucked getting back on HWY though. I got away once and got caught once. I was 16 and in my stock auto 1990 Accord with a fart cannon and decided to race a crockett. Well, not actually race. I tried to keep up. We were doing 90 in a 45 mile per hour zone and passed a cop. I saw him flip the lights and make a U-turn, so I dipped down the first street. He hasn't come over the hill yet and turned into a neighborhood. Parked in someone's driveway and ducked down for about 15 minutes while my heart was beating uncontrollably. Fast forward 3 years later, I had a 1992 Accord engine swapped and turboed. I was taking my buddy home from work and it was a bit past midnight. I was showing off how fast it goes by doing 70 in a 35 mile per hour zone. Passed a cop and saw him make a U-turn. I tried to outrun him but had to make a turn and he caught up to me. Stupid stock suspension. He clocked me at 68 and I told him that sounded about right. He didn't mention me getting up to 120 trying to get away, but he did give me a ticket for 14 miles per hour over. So lucky. My mate, Rob, had a chase a few years back. Long story short, we were always up to no good back then. He was drunk, coked up with some other mates of ours, so didn't want to get caught and proceeded to absolutely boot it down some country lanes. We live out in the sticks. Interestingly, he was in a Focus and the cop was also in a Focus, so it was a pretty interesting match. Anyway, after the chase went on for a bit, he got a bit of a lead on the cop, so when he reached a corner with an opening into a field on it, he just went straight into the field, pulled up the handbrake and turned off his lights. The cop went past without noticing and never came back. Ridiculously, they then sat in that field getting more coked up. Idiots. Another mate's uncle is the cop and told him he knew it was Rob and would knock his socks off if he ever saw him drive like that again. I know this probably sounds like BS, but this is what it's like in the small, strange villages of England sometimes. I instantly knew you were English because of the coke, that and vernacular. I've evaded the police a few times and been snagged a few times too. The key with my successful evasions, and most of the ones in this thread, is to notice them before they start the pursuit. That is, getting ready to turn around. On another street, cars space between you and cop. Wait till you lose sight of cop and turn onto another street, a driveway. You turn if extremely desperate. Big point, if you ever have to go to court, the officer locks his case if he can prove he kept you in line of sight the whole time. If you can bring that into question, you dramatically improve your chances of getting out of the ticket. If you can't break line of sight, pull over as best you can, and do the best nice guy routine you have. Ancillary, if you know you are busted and there's no chance for evasion, pull over as fast as you can. I once was speeding on the interstate, saw the cop put his car in reverse before I even passed him and pulled over so quickly he had trouble crossing the lanes of traffic to get behind me. After the standard conversation, he let me off, basically BC I was so observant. Well, at this point my story will probably drown in the 733 comments so far, but here goes. When in college I was in a long distance relationship with a girl 1.5 hours away by car. When driving back one Sunday after visiting her that weekend, I was on a road going about 75 in a 65 mile per hour zone. I was in the left lane, not really paying attention to the fact that my exit was coming up. As it happens, this road has a speed limit that decreases to 55 about a mile before my exit, but I normally just continue at 75 for the mile and take the risk. I am about half a mile away from my exit when I realize that to my right is a line of cars all stuck behind a truck about 1,000 feet ahead of me, all going about as fast as I was. I didn't want to miss my exit, so I cranked my speed up to about 95 to pass the truck and make my exit. Of course, as I'm zooming past them I see a speed trap to my right, and the cop pull out. At this point, in the 3-lane highway, he has to go behind the line of cars and catch up with me to pull over. He had no way of knowing I was exiting soon, so right as he gets behind the line of cars I pass the truck and make the exit barely. Look to the road I just left and see that the cop was still stuck behind the wall of cars. Now I'm freaking out. I pull off on the first exit in the new road and wait at a stoplight, where the highway is clearly visible to me, but it would be hard to spot me without trying pretty hard. I wait there for about 10 minutes and see about 3 cop cars zoom past a minute later. Then 2 double back a few minutes later and come back through again. I waited for another few minutes to be sure I lost them. Then went back on the highway and drove home. A 95 and a 55 speed limit in my area would have meant a reckless endangerment ticket which would have revoked my license. Got away though. So booyah. TL. DR. Get caught speeding. Trap a cop behind a line of cars. Get away Ryan Gosling style. Nah man, I'm still reading them. Very interesting stories. Yours is no exception. Upvote. I lived in a southern African dictator-led country that had loads of roadblocks. Part intimidation, part bribery hunt. They were never fun is what I am saying for a foreigner, even if you were not doing anything wrong. Well, one night I am heading home on the practically pitch black ring road, which is basically one giant circle around the city. It's a great road to go fast. There I am broad sliding around this corner around 100 kph and in my spotlights I see a roadblock. 2 police's cars either side, Mercedes-Benz C-classes, and police in the road. What else could I have done? I straighted up and floored it. The twin-turbo V6 gave me everything it could and they ran from the road. I just kept going and going, then dodged into a suburb. Good experience. At that point if they caught you, you were fricked. I used to skate all over the state capitol in Sacramento. The horseback officers would bed pee and want to ticket me, but I learned that I could jump my fruit-booting butt down a flight of stairs. No matter how small, horses don't seem to like jumping down stairs. Years ago a younger version of me would run from the cops habitually. If you get a bunch of sport bikes out riding, pretty soon someone is going to pull a wheelie, then someone is going to speed up and next thing you know, everyone is going about 100 miles per hour. If a cop came up on us, it was all about divide and fly. Trying to catch someone on a sport bike is like trying to catch a cat. Looking back, I'm somewhat embarrassed with my actions. Not a cop, but had to post this. I had just got done driving around and hotboxing some joints in my car, and made the drive back to my humble abode. I'm about to turn on my street, when I see a neighboring city cop going fast as frick down my street. Me being the douchebag 17-year-old that I was, I decided to give him the finger. I thought because he was an entirely different city cop, that I could get away with it. I was partly wrong. I heard the loudest screech and looked in my rear view to see him busting a U-turn to come chase me. Luckily as he was turning around, I turned on my street and pulled into my driveway. I reclined my seat into Batman position and saw the cop speed down my street looking for me. I'm glad he didn't catch me because one of my buddies got arrested by him and said he was quite the dong. My friend got pulled over doing 70 in a school zone. When the cop asked him why he was speeding, he said, "I wasn't speeding, officer. I was qualifying." The cop laughed so hard he told him not to do it again and get the frick out of there. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.